nobody could understand, like, wait, why can't you just like remediate? Or why are you not bringing your things? Like, it was such a foreign concept to so many people. And so
a great analogy that you use is a house fire. Like, imagine your house burned down and you had nothing left except for like the 3 things that you were able to grab, including your family. Imagine that. And that's what we did.
In a world obsessed with convenience and quick fixes, I'm approaching wellness differently. After healing from chronic illness by overhauling my entire life, I'm now on a mission to help women like me to thrive and not just survive. I'm Kristen, and you're listening to the OrganiMama Podcast. Before we start our conversation today, I want to let you know that the OrganiMama's Guide to Mold is officially available, and it might just change your life. If you've ever wanted to hear directly from me about how to test your home for mold, how to hire the right mold professionals, how to prevent mold in your home, how to detox your body from mold, and how to go about house hunting when you want a mold-free place to live, this mini video course was made just for you. I've intentionally priced this guide to make it affordable for everyone because I firmly believe that cost shouldn't be the reason that you aren't able to be armed with mold knowledge. Check out today's show notes for the link and get started on the OrganiMama's Guide to Mold today. Welcome back to the OrganiMama Podcast. I am joined today by my husband, Nick. Say hey, Nick.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey, Nick. If you didn't know, Nick is an ER resident doctor, so he works in the ER. If you have ever seen the TV show The Pit, that is a pretty...
It's very accurate.
Accurate description of what his day on the job looks like. So we love that for him. He's a very... chill pickle in the midst of some pretty stressful scenarios. We are going to tell you guys about our entire experience of going through mold, which has now been almost 3.5 years ago.
It seems longer, I'm going to be honest.
A lot of life has happened for us since then. So yeah, it does feel like it's been longer than 3.5 years, but this is probably the story that we get the most questions about. We've shared bits and pieces of what happened to us in different places, but never really together and all at once. So we thought this would be a really great opportunity to dive into what really exactly happened for us with mold. It's a pretty heavy story, but there is, I think it's helpful to preface and say that there is a really beautiful ending to it. And we are really grateful and blessed to have been through it, even though we wouldn't wish that experience on anyone. It was our first home that we had mold. It was not something that was on our radar or had crossed our minds at all to even think about really when we were going through the inspection process. Like when we were looking at the house, to be honest, it was kind of gross. Like we bought it was from 1985 and the previous owners.
We had no money and we're like, oh, it's a house that's for sale and like we actually can afford it, which didn't mean a whole lot back then.
And we're DIYers at heart. We love doing things ourselves. Nick loves working on like home renovation projects and I love dreaming up all the projects and making him do them. And, but we looked at this house as like a canvas for us to paint like our life on. And, the windows were horribly sealed. There was a nasty crawl space that we knew needed work when we bought the house. Mm-hmm. And it was really, it smelled horrible. The previous owners had carpet throughout and a cat that they did not really maintain. So there were things about it that honestly should have been red flags for us, but
hindsight's 2020.
We didn't know, no. We just didn't, we had no clue. And now looking back with what we know about mold, it is kind of crazy. And I do hope that by us sharing this experience, we can help some of you avoid going through what we went through just by helping you have a foundation of understanding on this topic. So let's rewind all the way back to when we bought our house. This was in 2021. How old were we at the time? Like 24, 23? I don't know.
Math.
23. You got to hold the mic a little closer, babe.
Oh, sorry. My bad. I don't do this much.
It's okay. So we bought this house. We were super excited. We were very poor, and we were planning on,
I mean, that's relative. Like we had enough money to buy a house.
Yes, we did.
Like
but
it was
we did
an affordable one, but like
yeah, it was not an expensive house, and it was not very big.
That poor.
We had a little bit of money to buy a house, but we spent all of the money we had on buying the house. And so there were a lot of like cosmetic updates we wanted to make to the house, such as painting and replacing some of the flooring. Well, we replaced all the upstairs carpet. We ripped out and replaced, and then we pulled the carpet out of the family room and put LVP down there. So we were having fun working on these projects. And then about 4 months after we bought the house, surprise, I was pregnant, and it was planned.
It was like, it wasn't much of a surprise.
Happened quickly. So I think we were a little surprised at how quickly that happened. I went through my pregnancy. We were getting established in our house. This was like our first full year of going through all of the seasons living in the house. And when the winter time came, we realized this house is not very well insulated. It creaks and moans a lot. There's a lot of cold air that comes in. We need to get the windows replaced. There's just a lot of things about it that are not awesome. And so then our daughter was born in the winter, early 2022.
We did get the windows replaced before then.
Yeah, we did. But there was still just definitely issues with the ceiling on the house, like ceiling with an S. There was air coming in and going. There was still, we just saw like moisture, not moisture really, but we could tell that the house was not very well sealed, essentially. And so our daughter was born in the winter of early 2022, and she was amazing. We literally were so in love. We were exhausted. We were new parents, had no idea what we were doing. And within a couple weeks of her birth, we started noticing some things about her health that were a little bit like yellow flags. I wouldn't say red flags, but yellow flags. Like she had really severe reflux. And, you know, again, we were first time parents, so we really just didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what was normal. She got what people told me was quote unquote baby acne at about 2 or 3 weeks old, but it was
bad.
It was very, very bad. Like just, and it kind of covered her whole body. It was like I didn't want to leave the house because I was like, I don't want people to see her looking like this. It's like scary. My little new baby that I love so much looks like scary from all of these rashes and like breakouts. And so there was that, there was the reflux. And then otherwise she was a pretty chill baby. She didn't really cry. She slept pretty well. We were very fortunate with those things, and breastfeeding was very challenging for me at the beginning, but we did get it figured out. And so I just assumed like, okay, the reflux thing, like that's hopefully going to just resolve as she gets a little older. The baby acne, hopefully that will resolve as she just gets a little older. So we get to about 4 or 5 months. This is the beginning of the summer, and the weather's changing. So we're moving from spring into summer, and I start just noticing that the house smells a little mildewy. One of my favorite words, as it's getting more humid and moist outside. And I will say, I asked you what your understanding of mold was prior to this whole situation. And one of the things that I definitely believed was that mildew and mold were different, you know, like just a little mildew. You hear people say that all the time of, oh, it's just a little mildew. It's just a little this, little that. It's not that big of a deal. But then like, you know, that's a different thing than black mold, you know, those are so different. And what I did not know, and what I want you to know, if you do not know, is that mildew is mold. And if someone tells you, if your landlord tells you, if your friend tells you, oh, you've just got a little mildew and it's not a big deal, that is a red flag, because mildew is mold. And if you smell a quote unquote mildewy smell coming from somewhere in your residence, that means that mold, toxic mold, is actively growing in your home.
Well, I mean,
Most likely.
It's not.
Most likely.
Not all mold is toxic.
Correct. Not all mold is toxic.
I mean, we eat it in cheese.
You're right. I don't usually try to. But you like them blue cheeses, the moldy cheeses.
Gotta say it weird. Okay. All right. Moving on.
And yeah, like just the house overall. And like, I would say thanks to Nick. And like, again, we didn't know much. Okay. So I would say like, oh, I just feel like it just smells kind of like wet. As it's
it was
been raining.
wet.
And then his response would usually just be like, well, we live in an older home and that's just how it goes, you know? And he just didn't know to question that could be a problem.
I like how you're blaming me on this one. Yeah.
Well, let's just keep going with the story.
Wow.
Okay. So her health problems really did not ease up. And the crazy symptom that started happening when she was about 5 months was, do you remember?
I just thought it was the rash.
The hives.
Oh, yeah. Like
she would get these huge welt-like hives on usually her legs, but seemingly out of nowhere. And we could not like associate them with any particular place or food that I had eaten. Like I was...
Well, I mean, your first thought is like foods.
Right. And
because it's like
at
allergic
this point,
reaction.
because of her reflux, I had actually cut out, I was already gluten-free, but I had cut out dairy, soy, egg, nuts. Was there something else? There might have been something else. Oats. Because she reacted to all of them. Like she would get rashes when I had any of them, and it passed to her through breast milk. And it was around this time when the hives were happening and I was on this crazy elimination diet for nursing her that I started to wonder, maybe this isn't just like a baby adapting to the world thing, as people keep telling me like, oh, it's just kind of normal sometimes for baby to have food sensitivities or to have skin sensitivities because they're brand new to the world. They're adjusting to it. I just didn't buy that. And at this point, we had eliminated pretty much all toxic chemicals from our home, like in terms of.
We're still at that point. We're still going down the line of we think this is an allergy of some sort to something, whether it's food or something else in the environment that's common. And so we still like wanted to like figure out. Like, okay, let's make sure this isn't like an actual allergy to something that we can't figure out and can't like time out right of, okay, when she eats this, we have hives or whatever. So we wanted to get allergy testing, which we did at 6 months, which is kind of like
right before everything went to crap.
It's the earliest that like you can actually get semi-accurate allergy testing in infants because of how their immune system develops. And so we were like, all right, at 6 months, we're going to get allergy testing, which we did. And it was all negative. We're like, okay, this is weird. Like we're still having these hives and we have a completely negative panel for the most common allergens.
And a lot of these foods that we had her allergy tested for, she was reacting to through my breast milk.
Right. But so no allergy.
We were like there's a sensitivity that's happening, but it's not a true allergy. And so that really just left us scratching our heads because I think we went into that allergy panel expecting it to show that she had allergies to stuff, but there were none. And so we just were really stumped. And it was around this time that I was spending a lot of time on the good old Instagram just trying to read resources from holistically minded health practitioners and moms who maybe could give me some insight on this. And this was back before I had any kind of platform and I was still just kind of just learning a lot of things about toxins and health and root cause. That was kind of a new term for me at the time, understanding like, okay, so maybe my child just doesn't have just food sensitivities. There's actually something underlying that's causing that I need to try and find. And I do remember there was one time when I had spent probably a good couple of hours just like scouring someone's information about mold because I had seen them talk about mold that they had been exposed to and their child having eczema. And it was really the first time that I had ever thought about that or considered that could be something I might need to think about. And I think you were at school and you had just come back from school and I was like, babe, we need to talk. And he was like, what? And I was like, I think we need to test our house for mold. And what was your first response to that?
I don't know. Probably like, what? That's dumb. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember anything specific that I said. But.
And I was like, no, I'm serious. Like, listen to this. And so I start like telling him all these things I've been reading about and about how there's probably toxic mold in most people's homes. And he was like, yeah, right. And I was like, no, really, like, listen to this. This is crazy. And I had found this Instagram page for a holistic mold consultant who had come up with all of this amazing content, educating people on the harms of toxic mold in your home and all of the health symptoms that it can create and how it can impact women and children oftentimes more than men. And I was like, babe, like you have to consider this. Like, think about how our house is old and we have, that like mildewy smell right now with it being so humid outside. And he was pretty resistant to my thoughts on it at first. And
I mean, yeah,
this is really normal though. I just want to say like for especially for us as women, as moms who we have just like this mother bear instinct to want to protect our children. And we tend to be the ones that are doing more of the health research online. And it's very normal to come across this kind of information and have a skeptical husband. Like, I don't blame you for that because that's normal.
I feel like a lot of the times it's sometimes an overreaction of normal things. And so I just default assumed like, okay, we need to just like let this go, like give it some time and figure things out, but we don't need to freak out about it. Like the first thing you read about online, you're like, oh, I like saw this thing on Instagram about mold. It's like, okay, like not a really reliable source, as we know. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, you don't like assume like, oh, well, you found this one thing online and that's it. Like
yeah.
we found it. So
right. And so I just started doing more digging, more researching. I started trying to look and see like what like science can I find on this? Because I'm married to a med student. He wants to like know like.
Oh, I was a first year med student. I realized I knew absolutely nothing then.
Yeah. How much did they teach you in med school about toxic mold?
Like one slide and one like
and it's about black mold probably. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I mean, there's the proof is in the pudding. They don't it's not taught like to conventional healthcare providers to think about mold as being like,
I mean, to be fair, they can't teach you everything in medical school.
So true. But I was the one who was doing all the learning and passing the information on to him because all of this was new information to him as well. Mm-hmm. And I really had to like drag him kicking and screaming through what happened after this. But eventually he came around. And now I would say we are fully on the same page on this topic and very, very.
Yeah. There is some like, in terms of the like research side of it, it's really interesting because some of the only things we found in like research about mold was about like farm animals and how it affects them because it's like mold is a problem in their feed. And it was like, that's really interesting that the only research done is for like veterinary medicine and the health of like cows.
It is still a very, very new concept and there's not a lot of human studies that have been done, especially since mold can like impact people over decades in similar ways that other things can that still need more research. Like EMF, for example, it's like our generation that's been exposed to like all of this EMF in our lifetime. So it's hard to say, oh, it's going to impact you in this way when you're old because
you can't
none of us are old yet.
You don't know that.
So it similarly, mold is just this very like emerging new topic. Not that mold is new because mold's been around forever, but mold sickness is relatively new. And there's only a handful of doctors and scientists that have really spent years and time trying to understand how it can impact the human body. So What I decided, or what I like requested from Nick, is like, can we just take a look at our house again with a fresh set of eyes and try to figure out, is there possibly moisture or water damage or mold growth somewhere that we maybe overlooked, but we didn't know to look for it before. So now that we're thinking about it, can we try to look for it? And then what did you find?
Well, I mean, we knew that the crawl space was like an issue in terms of like how you seal a house and the moisture level of a house. You know, like crawl spaces have like a higher moisture content just because they're vented, meaning they're exposed to the outside air. And so they're the same environment as outside. So when it's humid outside, it's humid in your crawl space, which affects your house. And then I was like, okay, well, we know our ducting runs through our crawl space. And so if that's not like perfectly sealed, it could be creating like a moisture issue. And so we were talking about that, and I was like, all right, like I'll go check out the crawl space.
And also,
which is a pain.
Sidebar to say that when we bought the house, I think I mentioned this earlier, when we bought the house, we knew there were issues with the crawl space. Like we were told by the guy who did the inspection on their house that it was really important that a new vapor barrier got installed. And we still had not gotten around to doing it.
No, we hadn't. And like, yeah, I don't know, man. Just in hindsight, everything sounds so much terrible. More now. But yeah, okay, a vapor barrier, which is like it with crawl spaces and being vented, like putting a vapor barrier below just like doesn't really do anything. It's so dumb if you really think about it. But anyways, so like I go in the crawl space, and like there's at this point there's definitely like we've had snow and then rain and humidity. Then like it's springtime in Indiana.
I think it was summer. I think it was like August.
No, I definitely went in the crawl space when there's snow still.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so we knew about the crawl space. Okay, all right.
And then we had the whole like squirrel issue, which is a totally different story. We had squirrels in the crawl space.
And the chimney.
Yeah, and they got into the chimney. Yeah.
Yuck. Okay.
Different story. Kind of related to an unhealthy home, but so I'm like in the crawl space and going into like the far back corners, which are like hard to get to because there's ducting in the way. You have to kind of
You're like crawling, like army crawling down there. Kind of, right?
Like part of it, especially like where like we had one part of the house that dropped down into a slightly lower level, and that was probably like 2 feet of space for the crawl space, and so I literally had to belly crawl through all of it. And there is like far back where the main duct goes out to like put your air conditioning and heating to the rest of the house. There's a lot of our plumbing coming in, and the drain for the ducting, like when you have air conditioning, it creates
condensation.
Condensation and moisture through cooling the air. And the drain is supposed to go somewhere, but ours didn't. It just drained into the crawl space. And I was like, oh, that's not right. And there's literally just condensation just draining everywhere into the whole crawl space and then just absorbing into the dirt. And there's a lot of water down there.
Right by the intake for the HVAC.
Yeah.
And were you able to see mold on like the wooden beams around
like,
there?
I didn't really like know exactly like how to look for mold on like wood and like what that looks like. But I was like, I don't know much about mold, but like that's mold. Like it has like spotty growth of like, it looks like it's on a petri dish, and it's probably not supposed to look like that on wood. And so it was probably pretty extensive.
So what that means is, because it was right by the intake for our HVAC, it meant that moldy air was getting sucked up into our heating and air conditioning system and blowing through our vents into every room of the house. Mm-hmm. And the room that I suspected like smelled the most mildewy, if you will, moldy, was the nursery. And our daughter didn't sleep in there a whole lot because it was around 4 months that we started full-time bed sharing with her. But she did nap in there some, and we would rock her to sleep in there some in her rocking chair. and I could smell just like wet coming up through the vents.
Wet dog.
Yeah.
It smelled like wet dog.
And again, like initially Nick had written it off as just like, well, it's just an old home. It's not sealed very well. But then after we discovered that in the crawl space and I started doing some more research, everything I was reading pointed towards all of her symptoms being like potential symptoms of mold sickness.
Right. And at this point we had like, okay, it's not allergies.
It's not allergies.
Maybe
it's not
food
laundry
sensitivities.
detergent. Yeah. And the other thing that I started researching as well was the fact that food sensitivities are often caused by mold exposure. And that was a new kind of understanding. Like, I did not know that that was a thing. And I mean, how would I have known that? So I went to the page for this holistic mold consultant that I had found on Instagram. And I looked up I looked up to see, you know, can we work with this person to help us? And it was at this point now that we really did not have any money. Like, candidly, I think we had probably less than $2,000 in our bank account.
Oh, probably, yeah. Well, because we bought the house before I started med school, the year before. And so we had some, and I was still working. You were still working. But then once I started school, like we just had my loan reimbursements.
Stipend, yeah, a little stipend. And I was working a little bit, but not a lot.
It was like, we were probably living off like $30,000 a year at best.
But we didn't have any savings. We didn't have an emergency fund.
Yep.
Nothing. And it was like one of those scenarios where you have to check the bank account every time you make a purchase to make sure that there's enough there for your necessities. And we learned a lot during that season for sure from a financial standpoint, but that's not really the point here. But all that being said, like we were pinching pennies and really did not have anything to spare at that point. And I looked up to see what would it cost us to like test our house for mold. And
was it $1,000?
It was like $900, I think.
Yeah.
But that involved like a full test and then working with this consultant to analyze the results of our mold test and then also work on what the next steps are. Like it involved multiple meetings with her.
And you were pretty convinced at this point.
I really was.
I think we need to do this.
You
and
were
I was
not.
like, that's a terrible idea for $1,000 just for information.
Like half of the money in our bank account. And spoiler alert, it was the best decision we could have ever made. And we did end up kind of like moving money around a little bit and, you know, not buying certain things that for the next month or two that we normally would have to try and afford this mold test and working with this consultant, because I basically like came to him in tears multiple times. And I was like, look, the health of our daughter matters more to me than anything else. And I would rather be living on 2 cents than keeping her sick.
Which is a fair point.
Yeah. And so
try to figure it out.
So we hired the consultant and we ordered a test. We did a dust test, which there's a lot of ways to go about mold testing. And with what we know now, I would say that like 90% of what's out there and as options for mold testing is just a horrible idea.
Yeah, it's kind of garbage.
There's, you know, air sampling. There's like, you can hire someone local to come in and test your house for mold.
Yeah.
We really wouldn't recommend any of those things because the majority of mold professionals out there are not trained on how to handle mold holistically or in a way that protects your health. They are trained to remove or like clean up or hide visible mold.
Which, I mean, to be fair, like...
That's what the industry has known for a really long time.
Yeah, that's what everybody knows. Like, oh, you see mold, like, just scrub it away. And it's good. Like, I mean, most people are like, just bleach it. Which, I mean, to be fair, it does kill the mold. But...
Well, we can come back to that. We can come back to that.
I don't know.
Don't use bleach on mold.
There's a lot of details that...
Don't use bleach on mold. Okay, so we hired the consultant, we tested our house, and the type of test that we did was a dust test. So you basically take like a contained Swiffer pad and you swipe dust around your home. There's certain areas that you like can't use, like you can't do the bathrooms. You're not supposed to do like a basement. We didn't have a basement, but you're supposed to swipe like dust from main areas, like the living room.
You're just literally just trying to get dust from a general sample of your house without getting other things. Like if you did like recent drywalling and you have drywall dust, like you can't do it yet because you get a bunch of drywall dust and that ruins the sample. You want like actual dust to get a good sample of the environment of your home.
And it's taking a look at what has been present in your home over the last amount of time that dust has been collecting. So the longer the dust has been collecting, the better, actually, because it gives you a more full picture of what's going on in your home. So we took the sample, we sent it to the consultant who sent it to the lab, and then we had our interpretation with her. So we get the test results. We didn't really even like look at them before we talked with her because we didn't really know what we were looking at.
It just gives a number. Like you're like, okay, cool.
There's
like
a score at the bottom, which the score really is irrelevant, but it actually gives you a breakdown of like all the different types of molds that are detected in the dust and then what the score is for each one of those. And it breaks it into two categories. There's common indoor or common household molds. Those are the ones that like are everywhere in the environment and you really don't need to worry about them.
Yeah, like we live in planet Earth. There's mold. This is here. Like that's normal.
And then there's the toxic water damage molds,
which are different.
That are the ones you want to be concerned about. So there's two separate categories. It gives you like the names of each, and then it will tell you like what the score is for each one. So we get on the call with her, and she's like, "Guys, I got to be honest. This is not good."
It's like, oh, what do you mean?
And
like,
she said, there's several different types of water damage mold in your home, but there's one called Chaetomium globosum, which is 600 times higher than the safe level. And I just like, I literally froze. Like I could not believe what I was hearing. Yeah. It was so shocking. And I think it was kind of an out of body experience, to be honest, of just like, what?
Yeah.
We've been living in like poison this whole time and we had no idea. And one of the reasons why this particular type of mold is so harmful is that it is very sticky. And so
very sticky. And like, I mean, I don't think we've mentioned yet, but talking about mycotoxins.
Yes.
The reason that molds that are common in the environment aren't super toxic, a lot of them, is because they don't release this toxin, like this protein that is toxic to like humans, animals, like mammals in general, called a mycotoxin. And a lot of these that aren't dangerous don't really release either any or very little mycotoxins, but the really dangerous ones, including black mold, release a lot of mycotoxins, like all the time and when agitated. Like if you brush them or you move stuff, like it releases all of these mycotoxins as a natural defense mechanism to like,
because if you think about it, and maybe not all of you know this, but mold is a living organism. And so just in the same way as like humans, when we feel attacked, we're going to either run or fight back. Mold is similar in that when it feels endangered or attacked, it's going to trigger its defense mechanism, which for these water damage molds is these mycotoxin gases, which are extremely harmful to human health. And not to mention, Nick briefly talked about bleach earlier. And people will often talk about the concept of killing mold. And the reason why we are firm believers that you don't want to kill mold, but you actually want to very carefully remove it, is because dead mold is just as, if not more dangerous than living mold, because it breaks into fragments and it can still release mycotoxins. Even if it's not actively living and colonizing, the mold fragments can more easily be breathed in and colonize in your lungs and cause damage on the whole body. And so it is not ever something that you want to do to kill mold. And when you come in with bleach, essentially what you're doing is, maybe you're killing it on the surface of where you can see it, but it's really just changing the color, like similar to hair bleach. It's lightening it, so it makes you think it's gone, but it's just it's triggered its defense mechanism. It's releasing mycotoxins into the air. And now you have all these mold fragments that are in your environment. So mold should always be removed carefully and with respect and not killed and scrubbed and sprayed with chemicals.
You're sounding like a vegan for mold.
A vegan for mold. Treat it with respect. It is very dangerous.
Okay, quickly pausing today's conversation to ask you this. Are you ready to ditch the toxins and embrace skincare and makeup that is actually clean and really works? My absolute favorite brand is Crunchy, which has beauty products that let you feel truly good about what you put on your skin. From performance foundation to lipstick to acne and wrinkle fighting skincare, Crunchy is packed with active, non-toxic ingredients. There's no carcinogens, hormone disruptors, heavy metals, PFAS, or synthetic fragrances. It's really clean products that enhance your beauty while nurturing your skin. So whether you're going for a natural look or something bold, Crunchy has you covered, completely toxin-free. You can shop Crunchy and get a discount code in the show notes below. And now back to the conversation.
So we started learning all of these things right around this time, and we had this conversation with our consultant, and she said, this is very bad. And I said, okay. And that was really the conversation, because we had another meeting later. So the first conversation was just the interpretation of the results. And she said, like, yeah, you have chatomium. This is something to take very seriously, especially if your daughter is sick.
We didn't ask at that point, like, what do you do?
We asked for, that's when we started talking about inspections. And so she gave us some names of trusted, holistically minded inspectors that we could talk to for pricing.
That's right.
And so then we went through several days of talking with different inspectors on the phone, and gosh, that was a stressful conversation.
When you say we, it was you.
It was me.
Because I was still in school.
It was me. I was on the phone for multiple days while caring for my 6-month-old while he's in med school. I'm on the phone with all these inspectors, talking to them about what their inspection process is. None of them were local to me, because unfortunately the truth is that there are not very many good inspectors in the United States that are going to do things the right way. So if you're hearing this and you're like, oh gosh, I need to hire a mold inspector in my hometown, just pause because it is so much more important to do things the right way than to rush and do things the wrong way and then have to redo it. So I was talking with multiple different inspectors that were all not local to me, that we would have to pay to fly in to do an inspection on our home. And honestly, they were all really sweet and kind of gave me some free advice as I was talking with them and explaining our home situation and our daughter's illness and our financial situation. And what was crazy is we were quoted upwards of $7,000 for these inspections.
More.
Well, for the inspections.
The
inspections were going to cost like $7,000 from each of these different companies. It was going to cost us like $7,000 to do the inspection. And then I was like, okay, realistically, if we were going to also do remediation, which none of these inspection companies offer remediation services, which is really important. You don't want to hire an inspector that also does remediation, because that is a conflict of interest. You really need to hire somebody that is just an inspector and not a remediator, and then hire someone who's just a remediator and not an inspector.
It sounds weird, but
yeah,
it makes sense,
because otherwise they have financial gain from finding mold in your home or treating mold in your home. So you really want companies that are separate, which again is hard to find because most inspection companies are also remediation companies. And so I was like, okay, realistically, if we go through with with an inspection from this company, I would ask them, okay, so then if we move on to do a remediation after that, given what I've told you about our test results and details of our house, the crawl space, the age of the home, other issues we know are in there, what would you estimate a remediation is going to cost us. And
you're like,
both of them said
$20,000.
Yeah, like 20 or 30 or
like,
more.
Oh, that's like worth way more than the house.
And the other thing is I asked them, I'm like, okay, so if we do a remediation, would that mean that we would never have mold problems again? And they're like, oh, no definitely not.
Because you live on a crawl space.
The age of your home and the crawl space that you have, it is very likely that you would have more moisture issues down the road. And I was just like, what? So I remember...
And that's why we hate crawl spaces.
I remember Nick came back from school one day. This was like the second time this had now happened where I like aggressively approach him with like a deep thought. And he's like, what the...
Was this my birthday?
No. Well, this was like maybe a couple days before. And I was like, so I think we might need to sell our house and leave. And he was like, excuse me?
No, yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm serious. I've been speaking with inspectors all week, and here's what they're quoting me, and here's what they're saying it's going to cost to remediate. Here's how sick our kid is, by the way, remember? And I also am feeling very anxious about the levels of mold in our house. It's like potentially lethal, and we're just still here. I kind of think we need to like get out like right away and figure out a way to, you know, legally deal with the mold problem that's in the house and then like sell it somehow. Mm-hmm. And you were like, absolutely not. We do not have the money for that. We literally can't. And you were mad at me for suggesting it.
Oh, I mean, financially, it was a really dumb decision.
Yeah.
But.
So initially it was like a hard no from Nick. And this thought just kept swirling in my head of, I think we need to think about it. I think we need to think about it. And so then we had our second call with our mold consultant. Mm-hmm. This was the night before your birthday. Mm-hmm. And so we sat down with her and we were like, hey, okay, so we've spoken with the inspectors you sent us. Here's what they quoted us. We literally cannot afford any of that. And our baby is still really sick. And I think maybe she had even had another bout of like really bad hives that day because I think I was just on, I feel
like it was almost a daily occurrence anyways, but
I was just my nervous system was so dysregulated. I was so high strung. I was full of panic. I couldn't sleep at night just thinking about what we were all breathing in. And I said, if you were in our shoes, what would you do? And she said, I would get out as soon as possible. And we said,
it's like, oh,
okay.
All right.
Okay. So that was kind of like the nail on the coffin. And the next morning.
You spoke to one other inspector and you asked the same question.
Yeah, I did.
Like that day or something.
I did. I called one of them back. That he was so nice. He had been like talking with me for a long time. I called him back and I said, hey, if you were in our shoes, what would you do? And he said, I would leave. Given the amount of Chatomium globosum that's in your house and how sick your kid is, I would leave if you have somewhere that you can go. And we were very blessed because all of our family lived nearby. Mm-hmm. And we had some of our family that was willing to take us in. We asked. And it temporarily, you know. And so the next day we took nothing with us, and we left the house with the clothes on our backs.
I mean, the same way that you like think about how people treat black mold, we treated this like take nothing.
Everything's contaminated because it's been blowing through our air conditioning into our home, covering all of our surfaces, getting on every single thing. Everything is contaminated, and we do not want to take any of these mold spores or any of these mycotoxins with us to our next environment. So we left our house the next morning. I never went back. And it still kind of makes me a little like emotional to think about. Like I literally never went back. You did under tough circumstances, but I never went back in the house. And there were things that I like had to say goodbye to, like our daughter's room. Everything that was in there, all her baby items, the glider,
blankets and clothes,
her blankets, her clothes, her stuffed animals, everything, the rocking chair that I had rocked her for hundreds of hours in for the previous 6 months. never saw any of it again. Because we had to treat it like it was heavily contaminated.
Yeah.
And so we like left and went to Target. We, one of my siblings sent us like a lump sum of money to help like buy new clothes for the week, because we just weren't really sure what we'd be able to recover from the house, what we'd be comfortable with recovering. So we bought enough clothes for like a week. And then we like changed outside. Like, I can't even remember. We like changed.
We changed outside.
We like went to like a relative's house and like changed out of our clothes from our house outside so that we wouldn't bring contaminated clothes into that house.
And then we like left them in a trash bag outside.
Yeah, we did. Yep. And then we moved in with family. And he was still in the middle of his semester, and I just thought like life could not possibly be worse right now. Like it was like our house had burned down, except that nobody understood. Nobody understood. Like nobody could understand like, wait, why can't you just like remediate? Or why can't you just like wash your clothes? And like, why are you not bringing your things? Like, it was such a foreign concept to so many people. And so,
I mean, a great analogy that you use is a house fire. Like, imagine your house burned down and you had nothing left except for like the 3 things that you were able to grab, including your family. It was like, imagine that. And that's what we did.
Yeah. So then we went through the very interesting next couple of months where we were living with family. And the first thing I want to say is that there was initially a very bright thing that happened for us. That was the first like ray of hope, which was within 2 weeks of leaving that house, all of our daughter's health symptoms went away, like completely.
Which just confirmed like, okay, this was probably it. It was probably our house.
Yeah, her skin cleared up, no more hives. Literally, all of the food sensitivities went away, and I was able to reintroduce all of those foods back into my diet while breastfeeding her. And she was able to start eating all of those things as solids as well, which was shocking because I, at that point, had decided like, well, I'm probably going to be free of these million foods until I wean her. And she tolerated all of them fine. And even other things that we had not realized health-wise about us that changed after we left, like sleeping. You had a lot of headaches.
Yeah, the only thing that I had was headaches, and I was like, oh, like I'm in the middle of my first year of medical school. I have boards coming up. Like headaches are expected. And then like a week later, I was like, I don't have headaches anymore, and I'm getting closer to boards, so I should be more stressed. So that didn't make sense. It's like, oh, I bet it was our house.
Yeah. And both of us just had a lot of like sleep disturbances, just like waking up a lot to use the bathroom or just tossing and turning. For me, a lot of tossing and turning. And that went away. Even though our situation was still really stressful and painful and hard after we left the house, I was able to sleep, like really sleep. And another thing I noticed on our daughter was she had really dark circles under her eyes, like the whole time she'd been a baby. And after we left, her eyes like decreased a lot in puffiness, and those like dark circles went away, which was, again, one of those things that we just didn't even realize was a symptom.
We always look back through pictures, be like, oh, this was during mold and this was after mold. Like,
yeah, she
you can see it
she
on
was
her
like
face.
A different baby. And so then we went through the process of like trying to figure out what to do with the house and what to do with all the stuff that was in the house. And so Nick, on like evenings after med school, he would put on a hazmat suit and a respirator and like be in a fully contained suit and go into the house and try to figure out what things did we feel comfortable salvaging. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more specific, and we don't need to go into all the details
it's
here.
a lot of details about like what you choose and why you choose and how you clean it if you choose, and it's a lot of details.
I also want to say that like it's not one size fits all for what to do with your things after you find mold in your home, because some people's level of sensitivity is higher. Some people have different strains of mold than others. Because we had Chaetomium that is notably so sticky and really, really hard to get off of porous objects. Porous meaning like paper, fabric, unsealed wood, stuff like that. We took a very conservative approach in what we salvaged. So we threw out
aggressive approach in how we threw everything out.
Yeah, I guess that's probably a good word. We got rid of about 80% of our stuff. All upholstered furniture, all clothing that was more than like a half-inch thick.
Yeah.
All of our pillows, bedding.
Literally, I mean, like,
We
no
saved-
furniture we kept
We
outside
saved
of...
like things that were glass and like metal, like a lot of kitchen
and,
like cups and stuff.
stained or painted wood.
Yeah, but then
Like, we kept our bed frame, but we didn't keep the
it
bed.
was sealed, yeah. But then everything that we decided to keep, we went through a very, very rigorous cleaning process, which the blueprint protocol for that was provided to us by our consultant, who was literally an angel and walked us through so much of this. And I adore her. I'm going to link all of her stuff in the show notes. Her name is PJ, and she's really the best in the industry. And I would say that if you are going through mold or suspect mold, one of the best decisions you could make is to hire a holistic mold consultant to work with you, because there's only so much that you can try to decide and figure out on your own that's correct, to be honest. There's also just a lot of emotions that are involved in the mold process, and just to have somebody who's emotionally neutral, who is very educated, who can just walk you through very logistically of like, what's the next step, is priceless, truly. And even though we had no money, it was still super worth it for us to hire her to help us. And so what we did with the house, and again, hindsight's 2020, is this what we would do now? I'm not sure, but we hired a local remediation company that's not like holistically minded, didn't do things to the standard that we would have wanted at all, to come in and handle the mold in the crawl space and then clean the vents. Because, we had documentation of mold in the home from the test that we did. And so we couldn't legally sell the home. We'd have to disclose that there was mold.
You can sell it, but you have to say, hey, we have knowledge of an active mold problem, which is like,
and we
be
wanted
an issue with
to
selling it.
Like at least mostly take care of it. So the remediation that we had done was not to the standard that we would have chosen for ourselves. And it was also
but it was
affordable.
Yeah, but it was to a standard that
meets legal requirements.
Well, there's not really legal requirements, but it was a standard of the industry of like, if you have a mold problem, what do you do? If you ask any generic mold like company, what do you do? That's what we did. Like, we had them like generic, like all the toxic chemicals to kill all the mold everywhere, all of the ducting. We like had it like vented and fogged and then sealed with like special sealant. And
again, none of these are things that we would choose to do if we
because
had been
we were out of the house.
Yeah.
We were like, we wouldn't choose this for ourselves, but this is what everybody else would probably do to create like a killed mold situation. And so we did that in order to be like, okay, like we addressed the issue how everybody else would do it. And so now we can sell the house.
Yeah, and honestly, like there was a lot of mixed feelings about selling the house. And I know that some of you are probably listening and thinking like, how could you possibly do that? How could you know that there was mold and probably mycotoxins in your home and sell it to someone else? It was really hard for us, to be honest. But I think there was a couple things that we had to keep coming back to. One was that like God is sovereign. We are not. And this is what we can financially do right now. Like this is what we're able to do. Secondly, the majority of it, like it's a homeowner's responsibility to care about the things that matter to them. You know what I mean? Like we can't force other people to be educated on mold the way that we are. And so if somebody
care about it as much.
Yeah. Like if somebody is coming into a home and they don't care or know to think about mold, that's not like our responsibility to inform potential home buyers on like, hey, you might want to like, you might want to just like do a dust test on our house before you like in the inspection period. Like that's
how you end up not selling your house. Cause
that
like,
wasn't
why?
our responsibility. And then ultimately we sold it to a single guy because I don't think that's just how it worked out.
Yeah.
That's how it worked out. And I think like as much as we had mixed feelings about the whole thing, I felt a little better about that just because I was like, I don't know that I could accept an offer from like a family with kids or
like it just would have been. That was the first offer that we got.
It was the first offer. It was just this guy who like wasn't married, didn't have kids, and just like wanted like a house he just moved to like Indiana for his job. Yeah. So I felt a little better about that. But I think the truth is like people buy homes every single day that have mold in them and they do not know to think about it or test it. And most people, if you even say, hey, you should test this for mold, they're going to be like, I don't care. I'm sure it's fine. Mm-hmm. So like, even if we had wanted to make potential home buyers care about that, we couldn't have. And I had to just be at peace with that. And I prayed a lot for that guy who bought our house. And I think about that house a lot and pray that it's, not posing a health risk to whoever lives there now. I don't know if it's him or not, but
I hope it burned down.
You hope it burns down. Not with anyone in it.
No.
Two houses down from ours did burn down while we lived there. That was crazy. We didn't live in the nicest area.
No.
A lot of the homes were not very well maintained on our street.
There's a lot of gunshots that happened around our neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway. So no, I mean, definitely I'll be honest, like it was a conflicting experience for us, but we felt like our hands were tied and we felt like we did the best that we could with what we could afford at the time. So that was what happened with the house. And then we went on to have a very, very difficult long journey of finding a new place to live.
Yeah, I mean, so we went through like, do we rent now at this point because it's like more short term, more affordable, or do we look again to buy a house with the help of family, or like, so we kind of went through all of it. And at the time, I mean, it was still like post-COVID, things were super weird. Rent was skyrocketing. Indianapolis is still a growing population. And so rent was crazy. Mm-hmm. And we were like, okay, if we somehow like end up buying a house again, it's still going to be less expensive than renting.
Because we had cash from the sale of our house.
Right. So like if we can put down what we got from buying our house, then we can still spend less than rent, which is crazy to think about. Mm-hmm. And interest rates were like still like 3%.
Mm-hmm. But our budget was really small. Yeah. And I think that's like one of the tough parts about trying to find a home that doesn't have mold is you're limited by your budget. And our budget was small, and pretty much all the homes that were within our budget, we probably went and saw like 20 different houses over the course of 3 months. And all
20, really?
Yeah. All but 2 of them, we saw visible water damage or visible mold in the homes. Like just by like walking in and like walking around with flashlights. And there's a lot that goes into like house hunting of like what you should be looking for and what you should be considering when it comes to red flags for mold. And one of the things that we knew for sure was off the table was another home with a crawl space. So we refused to look or visit any homes that had crawl spaces. So we were looking for either like an unfinished basement or a slab. Unfinished basement allows you to actually see what's happening down there versus a finished basement is often hiding moisture problems behind the drywall. So we were really only considering like slab or unfinished basement.
With no money.
With no money. Yeah. And like, so we went and visited a lot of places that were in our budget, and it was very discouraging because, we'd be checking under kitchen sinks, we'd be checking around toilets, around bathtubs, and we just saw like mold and water damage everywhere. And it was
at the same time, houses are selling in 24 hours.
Oh, so the market was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. And the other thing is like, if we had been in a different financial situation, maybe we'd be able to look at a house and say, okay, well, we're going to buy this house and then we're going to go about remediating it the right way. But we didn't have any money to do remediation.
Yeah, nothing extra.
We knew that the house that we bought needed to be fine like safe the way it was. And so we just hit roadblock after roadblock, saw so many homes until we visited this one home that was a little older, I think, than our original house. I think it was like 1979. And we went and visited it. It was really small, but we walked in and we're like, wow, this is actually nice. And it doesn't smell funky in here. And we don't initially see any water. So we were walking through and taking our flashlights, looking around all the places where plumbing is and where water could be. We didn't see any staining.
This looks pretty good.
It looks pretty good. We were like starting to kind of envision, you know, like, okay, this could be our daughter's room. And if we have more kids, we could put them in here. And here's where the kitchen would be. Here's what your commute would be for school. We were just starting to think it all through. We started kind of liking it. We were like, this is the first house we've seen without signs of water damage. And you even went up in the attic and took a peek up there. Because attics and insulation in attics can be another really common place for mold to be hiding. So, and also the type of insulation that you have really matters, because there's insulation that's basically like glorified cardboard.
Well, it's cellulose.
It's and just like it's a hotbed for moisture and mold. So, we looked at there were no initial red flags, and we were like, okay, well, so we decided to put an offer on the house, and what we did is we wrote a contingency into our offer saying that we have a mold sensitive individual in our family, and we're going to be testing this home for mold during our inspection period. And if it comes back over X threshold that we set, we reserve the rights to rescind our offer and back out of the purchase.
And the weird like backside of this is because people like in general don't really know much about mold other than, oh, black mold is dangerous. Well, our house doesn't have black mold. And so they're like, oh, well, like our house doesn't have black mold that we've ever seen in all the years living here. So whatever, like their contingency is fine because it's not, it's not going to be a problem.
I'm sure that they were like, oh, it'll be fine. We don't have mold. So then during the inspection period, we get a dust test done on the house, and when we get the results back, we get a call from the lab, and they're like, there's like a huge hit for Stachybotrys in this house.
That's just black mold.
That's black mold.
We're like, oh,
and we were
no.
like, are you serious? So it either had to have been like up in the attic that we missed somewhere, or just growing behind drywall.
And that's the tough thing with mold is like, most of the time, you have no idea where it's coming from.
Unless you have an inspection, yeah. And so we had to back out, and it was so heartbreaking because we were like, we are never going to find a house. We're going to be stuck living with family forever. And it was really sad. Like, I cried a lot over that house, and the owners that were
mad.
Were really mad at us, and they like tried to, say that our test results weren't through a verified lab, so we had to have the lab call them and verify the results and all this stuff, but they finally agreed. And what's really sad is we actually noticed that they had a professional stager come in to their home and restage it and then put up new photos for their listing to like repost it, but
this
they did not.
A while later, because after we dropped out, they
didn't disclose that there was a mold test,
which is technically illegal.
Yeah, because we had the results and we're like, this is the results for your house. Like, here you go. We like gave it to them, and they didn't disclose that there was mold. So anyways, so we kind of were resigned to the fact that we were never going to find a house. And then we did. We actually changed our search parameters to look for something that was a little smaller.
Even smaller.
Yeah. So we ended up with a house that was just over, or we found a house that was just over 1,000 square feet. It was like 1,100, 1,150 or something.
Real tiny.
Real small. But oh man, we loved that place.
It was a good place.
So this house was like 8 years old, and it had only had one owner before, and he was like military. Aviation or something like that.
Yeah, he was ex-Air Force.
He had passed away from old age. He was old, and he'd passed away, and it was like a friend of his that was selling the house for him. And so we went in and looked at it, and one of the first things that we noticed was, well, it was decorated in very like old man style, but there was like no dust. And we were like, how are we going to be able to collect a dust sample potentially on this house? Like, it's so clean. And it was really pristinely upkept. Like, there was just like, it was Compared to our very first house that we had bought, it was a night and day difference. It was just very well maintained. And we were like, that's a good sign, because that means that he probably cleaned up after himself. And if there was a water that spilled or a pipe that leaked, he probably took care of it right away. Because we couldn't see.
We later on like asked the friend who was selling the house, and she was like, oh yeah, he was like super particular about like everything he did. I was like, okay, that's kind of a good sign.
And so we couldn't find, like, we didn't see any signs of water damage or water staining or mold anywhere really at all. And so again, we put in an offer on the house contingent on mold testing, and they accepted the offer. Go into the inspection period, we test it. It came back clean. And when I tell you, when we got those test results back and saw that there was no like toxic mold, like it was just the biggest wave of relief. Like we just were thinking this is never going to happen. We're never going to find something. And then we did. And we took a couple of like precautions when we moved into the house, of things to just really make sure that there wasn't any mold. So like, for example, we replaced all the toilets because it looked like one of them really hadn't been used a lot. So a lot of the water probably just sat, was very stagnant. And like maybe there was a little bit of like growth. Like we couldn't really tell exactly, but we were like, let's just get new toilets. So we put like new toilets in. We actually put in new sinks with like new plumbing. And then truly, it was such a blessing from the Lord that we found that place. And it was a really great home for us for 2.5 years. And we did have one pretty big leak that happened when we lived there.
When we were on vacation.
We were on vacation, and we had a dehumidifier that was piped into our kitchen sink, like automatically releasing the water from the dehumidifier.
Somehow it like either started missing or
the pipe broke under the sink.
The plumbing.
Somebody had done like kind of patchwork plumbing down there, and so it like just kind of wiggled loose, I guess, one of the like PVC corners. And so we got back from vacation and realized that there was water all underneath the flooring of our kitchen and our kitchen cabinet.
But because we had like been through everything, we're like, all right, we know what to do. Rip it all out.
Rip it all out. And it was recent. It was still wet. It had clearly happened within the last 24 hours. So we literally had a guy come in, and we said, cut out everything with like a foot margin. So like anywhere that's wet,
all the
cut
cabinets,
a foot beyond that to really make sure that it's all the wet materials are removed. Tear
out all the flooring. He was like, really? Like all, like just take out all of it? We're like, yeah. And he was like, okay. Because like he didn't care. He was just like getting paid to do what we told him.
Contractor, yeah.
And so he's like, all right. And so we just ripped out this big perimeter.
And then he was like, well, there's this one part on your cabinet that like it will be really hard to take it out. So would you be okay if I just spray this like antimicrobial stuff? It's like,
cut it
it's
out.
Non-toxic, but it's great for mold. And we were like, nope, cut it out. Like we don't want that in there. Remove all wet materials. So we had just learned so much about mold by the time we moved there that we were really meticulous about things. We put like water sensors underneath all of our toilets and sinks. And I think we had one go off one time because there was like a drip or something. Maybe not. I can't remember. Anyways, we put water sensors under everything. We were constantly monitoring our humidity levels, because that was one thing that we had not known about in the first house either, is that like mold can start to grow on walls if your humidity is like over 65% consistently in the humid months of the year. And we didn't know that. And the humidity in our first house was probably like 75.
Well, whatever it was outside, it was inside. Bad. And in Indiana, it can reach like 90%. So.
Yeah. So we started monitoring our humidity really closely. And we put little like hygrometers, which are like $5 on Amazon, all throughout our house so we could see what the humidity was everywhere. Did you upgraded the vent in our bathroom to be more powerful? More yeah, because the vent that was in there, like the exhaust wasn't super strong. And that was another thing of our first house that we didn't know, is we had a shower exhaust vent that vented into the attic, which is so bad. So bad.
Which like in older homes that like it didn't used to be code, and so they just grandfathered it in, and like they just vented into the attic.
You have to have a strong ceiling vent that vents outside and not into your attic. That is a major mold risk, and we didn't know that again. So we were just so adamant about making sure all these things were handled correctly in our new home. And nobody ever felt sick in there.
No,
We never
it was
had
a good
any
home.
symptoms. Our kids never had symptoms. We had a home birth there for our second. It was amazing. And I literally sobbed when we moved out because I felt like the presence of the Lord was so strong there in protecting us and just blessing us after such a really dark season. And we did a lot of healing while we lived there. So we could probably talk for another 2 hours about different things we know about mold
So
and
much.
how to prevent it, how to handle it, and just
Daily practical things.
practical things. Like if you could give people like 2 daily practical tips on how to like prevent mold from growing, what would they be?
I mean, we kind of talked about it, but like the moisture prevention is the biggest thing of anywhere in a home that can be a moisture issue needs to be eliminated. That's one of the biggest things.
I would say squeegee your shower. We started doing that consistently because a lot of people get, like mold in their shower just because you take a shower and then water just like sits in there. One of the practices that we picked up was like we fully squeegee the shower from top to bottom, even the floor, into the drain every time we shower so that water's never sitting in the corners, sitting on the surfaces, sitting on the walls. That's a really easy, like 2-minute thing you can add to your daily routine that will prevent, moisture buildup in your shower.
Or you can get one of those showers with the jet dryers. That'd be sick.
Yeah, because everyone has the money for that.
I don't even know how much that costs.
Like thousands. But if you ever spill water on your floor, clean it up immediately. If you notice condensation on your windows, like have a window person come out to like check your windows.
If they're
like,
sealed properly.
You can very easily get mold around your windows, on your windowsills. Obviously it's difficult if you're renting, because there's only so much control.
We kind of didn't really talk about like why did we end up choosing to buy, and that was probably one of the biggest factors. Is that one, the market at the time was crazy, and like I said, rent was almost higher than your mortgage, but also you have no control. Versus if you're owning a home, like you own it, you can do like theoretically whatever you want to it. If you want to rip out the floors and replace them, you can do that. If you're renting, they may be like, oh, well, we're not going to rip out the floors. We're just going to dry everything. It's going to be fine. Well, we didn't. We wanted the decision to do what we wanted to, what we knew what was necessary to keep mold out of the home. And so owning was kind of like, it's financially tougher, especially on the front end. But if we can swing it, like we have full control, and so we can control our environment.
Right. Yeah. So there's just so much that we've learned over the years. It's like we talk about like the mold club being like this club that nobody wants to be in, but once you're in it, you're very loyal to it because once you know about it, you can't like stop thinking about it or talking about it. And I will say also like nervous system plays such a big role in how you like process and deal with these things. So if you're thinking like right now, like, gosh, I wonder if I have maybe mold in my home and I'm starting to freak out about it. I think one of the best pieces of advice I can give you is to just like take a deep breath. This process cannot be rushed. And honestly, like for most people, this is a 3 to 6 month or longer process that you do not want to rush. Don't just go hire the local person that can get it done the fastest. Take your time, hire a holistic mold consultant, hire the right kind of inspector, get the right kind of test. Air sampling is not accurate. It's not going to give you the full picture. If you had an inspector come in and do air sampling on your home and tell you that your home is fine, that does not mean your home is fine, unfortunately. It's just not giving you the full picture of what's going on because it's only it's only testing what's floating in the air in one specific area. And what's in your dust might have a bigger story there. And there's also a lot of people in the mold industry who frankly suck. Like they are out to get your money and they don't actually care about your health. They just want your business. And it's hard to kind of discern the good ones from the bad ones. And I would say that the good ones are such a small percentage. So As far as further resources go, this is kind of the end of our story. There's more that we could say. Like, we actually did go on to buy, like, our current home that we live in Michigan is a new construction. And that was like a whole nother thing of hunting for new construction homes, because there is kind of this false understanding that new construction homes are going to be less likely to have mold. And it's just simply not true because of how often...
Probably less likely, but still likely.
I mean, the number of stories I have heard of people moving into new construction homes that made them sick immediately because their lumber was moldy behind their drywall is, I couldn't even count it on two hands. It's more than that.
Yeah.
There's so many horror stories, and there's also lots of other ways for mold to be present in a new construction home. So we were so careful and strict about what we were looking for this house hunting experience. But that's like a whole nother podcast worth of information.
Yeah, it's different looking at a new build versus like already
an existing home. Yeah. But that being said, I do have a new resource out. It is the OrganiMama's Guide to Mold. It is a video course that you can take at your own pace. I'm going to go ahead and link that in the show notes below. Wow. I've been like working on this and thinking and planning like this project for a really long time. So this is basically like an intro to mold from a holistic point of view. If you're kind of on like square zero or square one and you're like, okay, I want to have a deeper understanding of this topic from start to finish of like, what is mold? Why is it dangerous? What are the, health symptoms that are associated with it? What should I do if I'm renting? What should I do if I live in a home that I own that I think has mold? What kinds of tests are out there? How do I find the right kind of inspector? All of that is included, and it's in bite-sized pieces, video format of me just walking you through it all and then providing next steps. So that would be a really great place for you to go at this point if you're looking to learn and understand more from the holistic perspective. So again, that's linked below, and that's the story.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't know you made that.
Yeah. He works hard in the ER. He works hard.
Hey, we both work 2 different jobs.
Yes. Lots of respect for each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a heavy topic. And if you're freaking out right now, I totally understand that. But like, I just want to reassure you, like, it's going to be okay. And the Lord walked with us through a really difficult time. There are things looking back that we wish we would have done differently at all different stages.
Sure.
But I think that's just part of life. And we wouldn't know what we know now if we hadn't been through that.
Yeah. And like, as with all trials in life that are really difficult, the biggest outcome of all of this was, one, we learned a lot and learned how to live healthier lives. And 2, we grew closer in our relationship to each other and to God. And without relying on the grace of Christ through all of this, I can't imagine doing it otherwise, because it was so difficult and it was such a big trial. And we grew so much in our relationships with Christ that in the end, so much better. But it was super tough. I mean, big valleys for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just something about like the home that you're living in not being safe that attacks like your human, I don't know, approach, like way of living. Like when you feel like, oh, my place that I live that's supposed to be like my safe oasis is like poisoning and it's toxic. It's poisoning my family. That is a hard pill to swallow, and that's a hard thing to live with. It's a hard way to fall asleep at night, being like, this environment, this home that I'm in, that I've made my own, is making us sick. That is really hard, and that really forced us to have to rely on the Lord in so many ways.
And like, I think one of my biggest like practical takeaways of a lot of this was not relying on your things, like not being attached to your stuff.
Just stuff. Yeah.
It's just stuff. Even like sentimental things, like that's hard to let go of.
We had to get rid of all of our books. Every book we owned, all our Bibles.
Like, a lot of it was like hard to let go of, but at the same time, like what is valuable in life, and it's not our things.
Yeah.
And
it's our family and our faith.
Yeah. And so it really put a lot of things into perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, we learned a lot. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. This was obviously a lot of information. So again, go ahead and check out the OrganiMama's Guide to Mold that I've linked in the show notes below. Take the course. I promise you'll walk away feeling like you have a better understanding. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking like, wow, I think I have mold in my home, or I might have mold in my home, and I also want a resource to share with my spouse to kind of like walk them through all of this information as well, you know, send them this podcast episode, but also take the course with them so that you guys can both kind of be on the same playing field of understanding and what to do moving forward, and just understanding like the financial aspect of it all, because nobody is financially prepared to go through mold devastation. Like nobody is.
No.
Doesn't matter how wealthy you are. I don't think you're ever really like.
Nobody wants to spend like
multiple $1,000s on
tens of thousands on what you think should be like a couple grand.
Right,
like,
right.
It just doesn't make sense.
There are things you can do in the meantime. Like if you're like, we're completely stuck where we're living and it's moldy and there's literally no way we can leave. We don't have anywhere to go. We don't have a cent to our name. There are things you can do to lessen the impact of mold in your home. And I do touch on all of that in the course as well. But yeah, and it's different. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody's level of reactivity to mold is different. We're all bio-individual, and so no situation is the same. And so just because we handled our situation in one way doesn't mean that that's necessarily the right way for you to handle it. But I do think like our story, we already know has helped a lot of other people as they've been like thinking through their own mold in their own home. And we hope that, you know, our story will, you know, continue to reach more people and encourage people to be thinking about mold as something to prevent and be aware of, and also like avoid in your home and get out of it if you're in it, if possible. But that is our mold story. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Nick, for being here. Love you.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you on the next episode of the OrganiMama Podcast.
Hey friend, thanks for listening to today's episode of the OrganiMama Podcast. If you're looking for more ways to dive deeper into low-tox living, I want to tell you about my OrganiGuides. In 2024, I wrote a series of digital guides that walks you through exactly how to rid your home of toxic possessions and chemicals, from kitchen equipment to bedding to paint to baby toys to your clothes and accessories. You'll learn exactly what materials and ingredients to avoid, what materials and ingredients are safe, and which brands and products I recommend as good, healthy options for your family. Listeners of the OrganiMama Podcast can get 20% off any of my OrganiGuides using code PODCAST, and I've linked all the guides in the show notes for you below. As always, do your best and let go of the rest. Bye for now.